Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We are so glad that you are here today. I am Julie Matusik, and I am going to be your facilitator for today's webinar. And we have enabled the Q&A portion of the Zoom webinar. So please enter any questions that you have in that. And we also have Mary with us here today, who will be able to provide any tech support that you may need if you're having any difficulty with your audio or accessing any features. So if you need to get a hold of her, you can open the chat box and you can private message her. And her name shows up as NFSN Mary, so you'll be able to reach her that way. All right, let's dive in. All right, so we would love to see where you are joining us from. And so we are going to ask you to take a peek at this map. So you see we have the US as well as the US territories are included in this map. And Mary is going to launch a poll for us. So if you could let us know where you're joining us from. We also have options outside of the US. So if you are joining us from Canada or another international entity, we'd love to hear where you're from. So take a moment to respond to that poll. All right, let's see those results. All right, we have representation from across the United States. Very cool. Our strongest representation is from the Northeast and South, but welcome to the folks in the Midwest and out West as well. So happy that you're here with us today. All right, we have two other questions just to get a sense of who is with us today. So the next one is about your affiliation. So I'm going to launch another poll here. So letting us know what type of organization you work for. Are you working for a family resource center? Do you represent a family resource center network or another family support program? Maybe you're a parent leader or in early care and education. Education's there as well. We have a couple different ways we broke out government, or are you a private funder? And of course, we have the other wonderful catch-all as well. I take about 2 more seconds to let us know. All right, let's see those results. Great, we have representation from lots of different groups here. So lots of FRC folks are here today, wonderful, and other family support programs. We have the network level represented, parent leaders, government, and others here too. So wonderful. Thank you so much. And then we have one other question to ask you about to get a little sense of who's with us today, just to guide our conversation. And this one is about the level that you're working at. So are you working at the program or direct service level or management level, or are you at the policy systems level? So take a moment to let us know. All right, take a couple more seconds there if you haven't responded just yet. And we'll see those results. All right, wonderful. Looks like we have all the groups represented. And our strongest representation is from program and direct service level folks. Wonderful. And also have policy systems management represented as well. Well, thanks again for letting us know a little bit about the valuable work that you are doing. Thank you so much. So I want to start our conversation today with sharing a little bit about the national network so you have a little bit of context as we dive in. So over the last decade, we have quadrupled in size. So we started out with 8 states at the table in 2011 and have since grown, like I said, more than quadrupled in size. And now we have 37 member networks, so 36 states and the District of Columbia that represent more than 3,000 family resource centers that are serving more than 2 million people annually. So very exciting to see these states going green. Our mission is to promote positive outcomes for all children, families, and communities by leveraging the collective impact of state family resource center networks and championing quality family support and strengthening practices and policies. And our vision, in short, is that the this whole map that you just saw, that the whole map would be green, ensuring that all families have access to quality family support services in their very own communities that are provided by family resource centers and supported by strong networks. So if you are in one of those states that is not yet green, we would especially like to connect with you to discuss and learn about what's going on in your states. So I want to share a little bit about the work that the NFSN does. And so our first bucket of work is connecting and convening member networks to enhance their effectiveness. So increasing the connectedness amongst members for peer learning and for mutual support. Our second area of work is promoting family support best practice and evaluation. So, raising awareness of what quality family support is and promoting a common language and standards and evaluation of it through the national implementation of the standards of quality for family strengthening and support. Our third area of work is raising the visibility of the value and impact of family strengthening and support networks in order to strengthen and to increase support for families. All right, here's a roadmap for our time together today. So you can take a peek at what we'll be covering together. So kicking off with a background of the standards, and we'll provide an overview of the standards for you. And we'll talk about implementing the standards at both the program level and the systems level. We'll have an opportunity for some question and answer at the end. So as a reminder, please enter those into the question and answer portion of the Zoom webinar console at any time. Don't want you to forget that any of those that you may have. And then we'll share some resources and opportunities that are available to you through the national network. And we'll close with an evaluation. So when you exit out today, you'll get a survey that pops up asking you to share, and that very much helps inform future webinars. So thank you in advance for completing that. So when we talk about the standards, our focus is on families, particularly families who are responsible for raising children. So these families consist of at least one adult and one child who are related biologically, emotionally, or legally. And families may consist of one parent, two parents, grandparents, foster parents, legal guardians, or they may arise from a need for mutual support. And I apologize for the background noise. My pupper is saying hello to you all. Um, Sorry about that. So would like to share a little bit about the timeline that the standards were developed. So this work all began back in 2012 when the California Network developed the standards of quality for family strengthening and support. So that's where the roots of the standards are. And since then, in 2013, the National Network adopted the standards for national implementation. And then in 2020, the national network engaged member networks from across the country. So parent leaders, Canadian family support organizations, and the Center for the Study of Social Policy to review and to revise the standards with a particular focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as relevance for both the United States and Canada. And then in 2021, that new version was approved by the NFSN membership. So why are these standards so important? Want to highlight that, of course, too. So these standards help ensure that families are supported and strengthened through quality practice. These standards create a common language and expectations across different kinds of family strengthening programs. So I know in this room today we have Resource Center folks, we have other family support organizations represented. So this is a very valuable tool to be able to speak the same language in a field where we didn't necessarily have that framework before. And these standards are designed to be used by all stakeholders, so public departments, foundations, community-based organizations, and families as a tool for planning, providing, and assessing quality practice. And so these standards, important to say right up front before we dive in any further, these standards are the tool, the document of the standards themselves, as well as all of the implementation tools are available for free on the NFSN website. So just want to underscore that we are not selling these standards. We want everyone to have access to and be able to think about quality work with families. So if you go to the website, you can hover over standards, you can drop down to overview. That subpage will be where you download the standards, and then there's the implementation tools page where you can access all of the implementation tools are in that suite there. So I encourage you to check that out. So as we're talking about the standards, important to talk through how different groups of folks can use the standards. So I know we have lots of family strengthening and support programs here today, and you can use the standards as a blueprint for implementing best practice. You can use the standards for self-assessment and to demonstrate quality. And I know you have direct service folks here as well that have the opportunity to work directly with families. You can use the standards to reflect on and enhance your work with families. And networks. I know we had representation from networks as well. So if you are with a Family Resource Center network, you can use the standards for quality assurance, for training and technical assistance, and to adopt as expectation for membership. And I'm not sure if we have any policymakers in the room today, but if you're here, you can use the standards to endorse for application in your areas of influence. So very valuable role there as well. Funders, you can use the standards to integrate into requests for proposals for monitoring and for quality assurance. And families can partner with programs to apply the standards and can provide feedback about how well the program is applying the standards. And as we're talking about applying these standards, it's important to name that it does require the commitment and the support of all levels of program responsibility to implement these standards and apply them. So it's not something a direct service staff could do by herself or a manager could do by himself. It's all working together to apply these standards. And so these standards are based on and uniquely integrate and operationalize two key frameworks from our field. So the principles of family support practice, they were developed by Family Support America. So you may have heard of them before today. That's one framework. And the other is the research-based and evidence-informed strengthening families protective factor framework. So you may have heard of that which was developed by the Center for the Study of Social Policy, commonly referred to as the five protective factors. So those are the two frameworks that the standards are based upon. So let's talk about these for a couple minutes here. And before we get too much further into the principles, want to ask you all to respond to a poll and let us know if you have heard of the principles before today. All right, so have you heard of these principles before today? You can let us know right there in that poll. Take a couple more seconds to respond if you haven't yet. All right, let's see those results. That is wonderful. Looks like many of you have already heard of them, so we'll cover them. So it'll be a little review for some of you, and for those of you that haven't yet, no worries. We'll get you up to speed here. So let's talk about these principles. They were developed by the by Family Support America back in 1981, and they continue to guide and frame the field today. And so the first principle says that the staff and families work together in relationships based on equality and on respect. So this principle, it may not seem so revolutionary to us today, but at the time it was written, it presented quite a challenge to the system. At the time, the prevailing wisdom was that the staff were the experts with their education, their knowledge, their experience, and that their goal was to quote unquote fix the problem family. But this principle, it challenged that notion by saying that the staff and families, they're actually equal. And the staff, of course, come to the table with their education, their knowledge, and their experience. But the families, they also bring their own strengths and resources and are the most knowledgeable about their past experience. And it's by working as partners in relationships based on equality and on respect that we will achieve the best outcomes for the family. The second principle says that staff enhance families' capacity to support the growth and development of all family members, adults, youth, and children. So, this principle emphasizes that we are in our fields, we are looking at the whole family, not just the individual. We know that when multiple families are active and participating and involved, the family will be most likely to have better outcomes. The third principle says that families are resources to their own members, to other families, to programs, and to the communities. So, unique to this perspective is we don't see staff as having all of the answers or doing all of the work. Families themselves are encouraged to support other families. And so, there's a strong emphasis on connecting families to share resources such as information or peer support. All right, let's take a look at the fourth principle here. So, the fourth principle says that programs affirm and strengthen families' cultural, racial, and linguistic identities and enhance their ability to function in a multicultural society. So, this principle is commonly referred to as the diversity principle, and it has two parts. So, the first is about respecting and welcoming the diversity that families bring, be that linguistic diversity, cultural diversity, family structure, and so on. The second part is about preparing them for and connecting them with a larger community where they will naturally interact with people very different from themselves. And so this will support them to fully participate in our diverse society in which we live. Principle 5 says that programs are embedded in their own communities and contribute to the community building process. So, family support programs, they aren't simply social service providers, they are community builders as well. And by strengthening the communities, strengthening the families, they are making a key contribution to the health of the community. The sixth principle says that programs advocate with families for services and systems that are fair and responsive and accountable to the family served. So take a second to think about some of the major systems that families are commonly interacting with. So maybe education, healthcare, the legal systems. And a follow up question for you all. Are these systems fair and responsive and accountable? Kind of a rhetoric question there because often not. So that's where our work comes in as family support providers to work with families to help improve these systems. The seventh principle tells us that practitioners work with families to mobilize formal and informal resources to support family development. So there is a strong emphasis on resources, and no coincidence that's the most common family, the most common type of family support program is called a family resource center. So no program could directly provide all of the supports that a family might need, but it's our responsibility to know how to connect them to them. And the eighth principle says that programs are flexible and continually responsive to emerging family and community issues. So, the concept of flexibility and responsiveness are very important to this field because neighborhoods and communities they change, whether it's an economic downturn, the pandemic, natural disasters. A neighborhood that was majority Latino today might be majority Asian in a few years. So programs need to be flexible and responsive to these changes. The ninth principle tells us that these principles of family support are modeled in all program activities, including planning, governance, and administration. So we call this the catch-all principle because it says that all of the above principles are should be applied in everything that we are doing, planning, governance, and administration. So these principles have implications for how we develop programs, how they're led, and how we support our staff. All right, so that's the first framework that the standards are based upon. The next one is the strengthening families approach. So, curious how many of you have heard of this framework before today? You can let us know in the chat there. Have you heard of the Strengthening Families Protective Factor framework before today? Give you just a couple more seconds there to respond if you haven't just yet. And then we'll take a look at those results. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Looks like majority of folks, about 3/4 of you, have heard of this framework before today. Great. And those of you that haven't, fear not, we'll cover it now. So this approach was developed by the Center for the Study of Social Policy in 2005. And this is a research-based and evidence-informed framework and has been shown to increase family stability, enhance child development, and reduce child abuse and neglect. And here on your slide, you can see the protective factors. They're listed out here. We won't cover them in as much detail as we did the other, just because many of you are already familiar, but encourage you to dive deeper into this. There's a plethora of information on the Center for the Study of Social Policy's website. If you click on their Strengthening Families tab, you'll be able to access their work. So encourage you to check out this framework. All right, so now that we have covered the two frameworks that the standards are based upon, let's talk about the standards themselves. We have the standards are divided up into 5 sections. So each of these 5 sections represents a key element of quality practice. So you can see here on the slides the different sections of the standards. So they are family centeredness, family strengthening, diversity, equity, and inclusion, community strengthening, and evaluation. So very important key areas of practice. And the standards, let's talk about their structure. So within them, there are 15 standards, and then within those, there are each standard has 1 to 2 sets of indicators of both foundational quality and high quality. The foundational quality indicators demonstrate the basic application of the standard. Programs build upon the foundational quality indicators to achieve high quality indicators, which represent deeper integration of the standard. Each of those indicators is followed by 2 to 4 examples from the field that illustrate its application. So this is not meant to be an exhaustive list or a checklist at all. And as programs are using the standards and applying them, they're going to come up with their own examples. And that's so important that in the certification training on the standards, a significant focus is on participants thinking of their own examples that demonstrate these indicators in ways relevant to their own programs. And as programs are applying the standards, they are encouraged to identify their own examples in ways that are relevant to their own communities. So a very key part of that work. And let's look at the quality indicators here first. So the foundational quality indicators create a solid foundation for family support and strengthening programs. And foundational quality indicators are designed to be met within the basic resources of a typical family support and strengthening program. And then high quality indicators are built upon foundational quality being in place first. So we aren't just jumping to high quality. We have to have that solid foundation under us. Programs are encouraged to strive to meet high quality indicators in order to serve families most effectively. Some high quality indicators may require additional capacity building or additional resources to meet. Let's look at the continuum here along the bottom. So we start with foundational quality not yet addressed, and then we approach foundational quality, and then we're meeting foundational quality. This is where quality begins. And then we continue along the continuum to approach high quality and then meet both foundational and high quality. You'll see that at the bottom of the bottom there with that arrow, it keeps going after we have already met both foundational and high quality. This is because quality improvement, it's an ongoing continuous process. And this is why high quality is not called maximum quality. You won't ever hear us say that. So implementing these standards, it's very much a developmental process, and it's common that programs may see aspects of their work at different points along the quality continuum. And as we go through the standards today, as we talk more about them, or if you explore them further, you may determine areas where you're doing quality work already, which is great. And you hopefully can identify areas to work on further. So let's take a peek at this arrow together. For the first four sections of the standards, this is the arrow that we use to explain the movement from foundational to high quality. On the left, we see foundational quality, and on the right, high quality, which represents deeper integration of the standards into the program. What moves us from foundational to high quality are the elements in the arrow. So formal structure, these are the designs, policies, procedures, and intentional strategies with committed resources that ensure consistency of practice. And then we have staff training. This is staff training particularly to support the implementation of the standard. And then family partnership. So this is partnering with families in the implementation of the standard. So each of these three elements help ensure that the standards are more deeply integrated into the program quality, into the program practice, I should say. So for example, at foundational quality, we may do something that is good practice, but then how are we ensuring that it wasn't just a one-time occurrence? And then at high quality, we have actually set up systems and training, and or we have partnered with families to ensure that it continues to happen. So the particular elements and the number of elements that are needed for high quality differ for various indicator pairs. So sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two, and sometimes it's all three, but it's never anything other than these three. Let's take a look at this standard and indicators here. This is directly out of the standard, so get to see a little sneak peek of what they're all about. So the standard here is that the program engages families to participate in program development and implementation. And this is the foundational quality indicator is that the program solicits input from families to shape and plan the program and services. And then let's look at the high quality indicator, uh, which is the program's design supports partnering with families to have an active role in the development and the implementation of of the program. And in the arrow element here, we have formal structure and family partnership. So as you can see in the arrow here, that is what moves us to high quality from foundational. So let's look at this arrow together. So as with the arrow that we just talked about, that we use for the first 4 sections of the standards, we see foundational quality on the left and high quality on the right. But this one is for the evaluation section, and those arrow elements are different. So still represents that deeper integration, but different elements that move us to high quality for the evaluation section. So here, the elements are data analysis. So collecting data is foundational, but then when we analyze that data, that is what moves us to high quality. And so sharing evaluation results is our next arrow element. So we're sharing those results with various stakeholders. Maybe the families that we work with are one of them. And then we have program modification. So this means changing the program as a result of what we learn from evaluation. So we aren't just doing evaluation for evaluation's sake, we're actually doing something with the data. All right, let's take a look at the tools. I know earlier today we talked about the implementation tools and that suite that is available. So want to talk about these in a bit more detail so you know what exactly that consists of. So the first tool we'll talk about is the program self-assessment tool. So this is designed for program teams of managers, direct service staff, parent leaders to reflect on the standards and implementation and quality improvements. And it's designed to be used as a critical thinking exercise by program teams. So all of these folks coming together to complete this. And it's recommended that all team members involved in using this tool have been trained on the standards first. So the next tool that we'll talk about is the staff self-reflection tool. And this consists of 18 questions for staff members to use as a daily reminder to implement these standards. So they're encouraged to put this in a place that they could see it regularly, so maybe above their desks. And the third tool that we'll talk about is the standards participant survey. And so this is 18 questions for program participants to indicate how well a program is meeting the standards from the family's perspective. So it's not a typical satisfaction survey that you may initially think about. And the questions actually mirror those on the staff tool. So if staff members are mindful of these questions and have them on their radar, then the program participants are likely to give the program high scores. And this participant tool is actually also available in English, Spanish, and Chinese on the website. So you could download those. And so again, all of these tools are right on the website for you can download, and we cover them in more detail and give you some practice with them in the standard certification training. And so speaking of the certification training, training is very much a fundamental strategy for implementing these standards effectively. So the certification training is an in-person or virtual training that is designed for all management and direct service staff, as well as funders. And participants receive a certificate that is valid for 2 years. So we're so glad that you are here for this webinar today, but just as a reminder, this is not the training itself. And in order to receive a certificate, you'd want to participate in the certification training. So let's talk about how you can get into that. So the certification trainings are conducted by pairs of trained trainers from member networks of the National Family Support Network. And funders, networks, other stakeholders can also contract with the NFSN to host a certification training for programs in their area if there's not already standards trainers in your state. So we'll talk more about how you can get a hold of us if that's something you'd like to do. And with this training, programs are highly encouraged to come as teams of both management and direct service staff, coming together because successful application of the standards requires the commitment and the support of all levels of program responsibility. And with these standards, individuals are certified, not organizations, which integrates the standards into everyone's daily work and provides a professional credential for staff. And these trainings are conducted live because the group work and peer sharing are so valuable in the process of learning about the standards. So the Training of Trainer Institute is a 4-day in-person or 5-day virtual training for representatives of NFSN member networks to be able to conduct the certification training in their area. Um, and only network representatives are trained to be trainers, which supports their capacity building and establishes a unique, essential, and ongoing role for them within the system of support for families in their area. And you can see here over the past decade where the standards have been. You can see where the standards have been offered as highlighted in blue on the map. And you can see on the right some of the statistics. We have over 13,000 people that have been trained on the standards from across the country and Canada, actually. And we have over 100 trainers that are conducting these standards on an ongoing basis. And you can see here as well, we have some data to share with you, just sharing out about how the standards are impacting the different programs work with families. These statistics come to us from the post-certification training survey that is sent out. And so most folks are saying that it is enhancing their work. So great. And also they're reporting out that they are using those implementation tools as well. And I'll give you just a second to read a little bit about the impact that the standard certification training is having. So as you can see here, the standards help validate existing work, benchmarking it to national best practice. And these standards have helped networks to form and to expand through the standard certification training. So, for example, in Arizona, the standards provided a common language for diverse providers across the state, and they established a key role for the Maricopa Family Support Alliance in promoting quality practice within their system of care. As a result, that alliance grew from 21 to 72 agencies in just a few short years. So, pretty incredible. And networks are strengthened. Their capacity is strengthened, their sustainability is strengthened through developing trained trainers. And all funds generated through the certification training are invested back into supporting networks. And in order to ensure the accessibility and the affordability of the certification training, networks with certified trainers can charge up to $150. So intentionally keeping it affordable so everyone can access and is able to learn about quality work with families and what that looks like. So when we are talking about the program implementation of the standards, this is a very helpful tool that we like to highlight. And I'll ask Mary to put a link in the chat that has the handouts for today. And one of those handouts is the program implementation continuum. So I know we have lots of FRC folks here today, other family support organizations. Encourage you to check this one out. This would be a great tool for you in particular. So we we have identified steps along the top, as well as sample activities associated with each of those steps. And then below that, there's the resources available to you as you are continuing down this path. So encourage you to check this out. I know the screen is a little tricky to read here, but encourage you to click on that link in the chat to download this tool. And as we're talking about implementing the standards at a program level, would like to take just a second to share a little bit about my experience. So prior to joining the national network, a little over 4 years ago now, I managed a family resource center in Corning, New York, in upstate New York, the Nannyhood Parent and Family Resource Center. And when I began working at the Family Resource Center, we were implementing the Strengthening Families Protective Factors, which we talked about a few minutes ago, as were the other family resource centers across the state. So we were doing a lot of great things working with families. We used the protective factor survey, and we have access to drop-in play, access to parent-child groups and activities, parent education, parenting groups. We have the ages and stages questionnaire screening, provided information and referrals. We had a supervised visitation program and hosted a lot of different community events. So doing a lot of really great things, doing great work in the center, serving families as best as we knew how. And I see some folks are having some difficulty with that link. So we will give us a few minutes to get that corrected, and we'll put an updated link in the chat. Sometimes the settings just need to be corrected. So apologize for the difficulty there. We'll get that corrected and put that in the chat in just a few minutes. So talking about the program, this is the program level at the Family Resource Center, family support level, and then looking a layer up at the network level, or sorry, not there yet. We talked about the kind of the before the standards and we were using the protective factor framework. And then let's talk about what it looked like after we started using the standards. So in 2016, the New York State Family Resource Center Network brought, actually became members of the national network and brought the standards to FRCs in New York State. So managers, directors, direct service staff, we all participated in a certification training, and then 12 of us actually went on to become trained trainers on the standards to create more capacity in the state as well. So through implementing the standards, our FRC saw that the standards very much enhanced our work. And so we were able to increase childcare offerings for parent education classes to better meet parents' needs and ensure that we were reducing as many barriers to participation as possible. We also intentionally partnered with parents. We began to work with families more to complete parent identified needs and goals, recognizing that parents are the experts on their families. And these standards also gave us the structure to increase the formal structure around our outreach strategies. So not only not creating extra work for us at all, but they really helped us to work smarter, not harder, with our efforts. And the standards also helped us to improve our database system, including the analysis of the data, which is very key, making sure that our programming was doing what we sought out for it to do. And these standards also helped us to create new opportunities to educate parents on advocacy and on leadership. And also through adopting the standards, we realized how crucial it was to have parents formally at the table. And and to be part of the planning of programming. So actually just 2 short months after I participated in the certification training, I was able to participate in the inaugural Developing and Sustaining Effective Parent Advisory Committee training as a way to gather concrete tools to start a parent advisory committee. So once we started that parent advisory committee, it was so exciting to see the enhanced ownership that the families now had. All right, so we are going to look a level up at the network level. So we just talked about FRCs and kind of the before and after, what that looked like. And now let's look at the network level. I know we have some folks that are working at the network level, coordinating the work of family resource centers. So here you can see, similar to the other one, looks very similar. This is the network implementation continuum, which is also available in that folder. I know we were having some technical difficulties with that. Sorry for the inconvenience. We'll make sure that is all ironed out. And these are also available on our website as well. These two particular tools are on the implementation tools page on the NFSN website as well. So again, the steps are available at the top. The sample activities are available for each of those steps, and then the resources that are available to you as you progress along the continuum. So one of the first steps, which you are here today, kudos to you all, is participating in this standards overview presentation. That is in the prepare phase for both program level and network level. So congratulations on taking that first step. And want to share just briefly, I talked a bit about the program level and what the New York State Network was doing. And so at the network level, I had shared that we became members of the NFSN, and you don't have to be a member of the national network to use the standards. Anyone can use the standards. We began training on the standards as well. And so the New York State Network was also the funder of the family resource centers in our network. And so they intentionally wrote the standards in as one of their grantee requirements to ensure quality and consistent programming. So all programs across the state began using this tool, using that standards program self-assessment tool. We all began using that annually. And so the network actually continues today to use the standards as a catalyst for enhancing work with families across the state. So that's a little bit about our journey, and want to share a little bit about, we have a couple other network implementation examples that we hope you find useful. This is from a network that demonstrates how they are using the standards as a network. They have divided this into a 3-pronged strategy. And so there's a training, evaluation, and membership prongs there you can see. And so each network is encouraged to develop their own network implementation plan. So let's take a look at this one as well. This diagram illustrates how the Colorado network has tiered their trainings for family resource center staff. So all staff at the centers, regardless of their roles, complete the 1-day certification training, 1-day in person, 2-day virtual, and staff that are working with families and their supervisors complete the free 14-hour online strengthening families training that's offered by the Children's Trust Fund Alliance. And then staff that are working directly with families and case management roles complete the 60-hour family development credential. So I know there's been a lot of information laid out here for you. So lots to think about, but want to just give you a couple of considerations as you're mulling over the standards. So the standards really can deepen your practice. They can establish a common language. They can develop, help facilitate partnership opportunities that you might not have had before. They're also unique in that they, you can utilize shared measurement systems, can help get that ball rolling. And the standards also help you do something concrete to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also, the standards help you be part of a national movement. So exciting to see the work and to see the growth of this across the country. A lot of times after these webinars, folks would reach out and say, "Oh, this sounds awesome. Interested in learning more. What do I do next?" So we created this slide so you didn't have to wonder what to do next, and give you some suggested next steps. So one of the things you can do if you haven't already is to download the standards and review them. Take a look at them. They're available for everyone to access. You could review some possible next steps along the program or network standards implementation continuum. So check that out on the website or in the handouts for the webinar. You also can participate in a standard certification training that is offered by your state network or by the NFSN. And for funders that are in states without networks currently offering the standards, you can review the certification page to learn about how to contract with the NFSN to bring the training to your state. All right, just as a reminder to enter in any questions that you may have, anything that you're thinking, wondering, please don't hesitate to ask. You can enter those into the Q&A portion of the Zoom webinar console. So take a minute to enter in any questions that you may have. We'll be watching those. As there are not any that have come in yet, we'll keep plugging and share some information that we would like to share with you about upcoming resources that are available to you. So the webinar Wednesdays, as you may know, you're here today. Thank you for joining us. Are a great way to connect with us, and we have several great opportunities coming up in later this month and next week. Actually, we will be highlighting family resource centers that are supporting teen parents and what they're doing. So encourage you to check that out. And then later this month, we are, and this actually was just rescheduled since the slide was created. That date for the Family Resource Center Learning Hub launch is actually on the 30th of November. So if you go to our website to check that out and to register, I encourage you to just mark that date as slightly different than listed here. So lots of opportunities coming up. I encourage you to check these out. If you are interested in learning more about the standards and becoming certified, I encourage you to go to the certification training page. You can see our upcoming training opportunities. Right now, we have openings I think there's a few, there's at least a few. It's not full yet, so grab a seat if you would like. We will be launching the 2023 training calendar shortly, but right now that is what is available. You can see also if your state already offers the standards training, and you can reach out to them to register if they do. And as we talk about in the standards, the value of elevating parent voice and involving parents in a meaningful way, this training is a great way to do that. And so this is the Developing and Sustaining Effective Parent Advisory Committee training. And so we encourage you to check this out. It is co-trained by a NFSN staff member as well as a national parent leader. So like I said, I had the chance to participate in this as a Family Resource Center staff, and it was just so helpful in implementing the Parent Advisory Committee. Kind of knowing where to start gives you the concrete tools. And I'll put my information up here. If you want to reach out privately with any questions at all, feel free to reach out at any time. Would love to connect with you. We don't have any questions that have come in yet. So just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, please enter those into the Q&A section of the Zoom webinar console. And Yes, so today's PowerPoint as well as all of the handouts. I know some of us were having difficulty. We apologize for the technical difficulty in there. And Mary, if you could put the link to the handouts again there for folks. Hopefully that last one was working for you. And like we said, it will be on the website. The website as well as the recording of this webinar. If you had anybody that you wanted to share it with, it will be on the website by this time tomorrow afternoon. So when you exit the webinar today, we ask you to complete the evaluation on your way out. We very much appreciate it. It helps inform future webinars, and we're planning for next year actually as we speak. So appreciate your feedback with that. And it's exciting to see what your next steps are as well. Yay, I'm glad the link worked. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for being here today, and hope you all have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. Thank you all. Goodbye.